Officer Scott had worn his badge for years, but what happened with a teenager named Jaden changed everything. It started on an ordinary day. Scott had responded to a call about a suspicious young man at a convenience store. When he arrived, he found Jaden, calm, respectful, and confused. But Scott, driven by assumptions he didn't even question, treated Jaden like a suspect instead of a kid. Later, Jaden's mother showed up, furious, not just at Scott, but at the system he represented. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her words cut deeper than anger could. "You see a threat. I see my son." Scott drove away that day unsettled. The encounter echoed in his mind. He realized he had been seeing the world through a narrow lens, missing the humanity of the people he was supposed to protect. That night, he made a decision. He couldn't undo the past, but maybe he could build something better. He proposed a program to his captain, a community initiative where officers and young people could speak honestly, share experiences, and start rebuilding trust. His captain agreed, cautiously but supportively. Scott named it Bridges. One of his first calls was to Jaden. He didn't know if Jaden would even want to speak to him again, but he owed him the invitation. When Jaden asked, "Why me?" Scott answered honestly, "Because I learned more from you in one afternoon than I have in years. You helped me see things I never allowed myself to see." Jaden agreed, but not for Scott, for the next kid who might walk into that store. Together, they began planning. Jaden suggested a session called Walk in My Shoes. Officers would go through simulations where they'd experience the kinds of suspicion and judgment black youth often face. Scott didn't hesitate to say yes. The first Bridges event was held at a local community center. Scott was nervous. Jaden opened the session by sharing his story. The store incident, the fear, the frustration of being seen as a threat. His voice was calm, but his words hit hard. Community members spoke next. A mother afraid for her son. An elder who had stopped trusting police decades ago. A young woman who said she always had to prove she was harmless. The room was filled with pain, but also courage. When it was Scott's turn, he didn't make excuses. He apologized. To Jaden, to the room, and he meant it. That night, something shifted. People didn't forget, but they began to believe change might be possible. A few officers and residents stayed after, talking, not arguing, listening. Over the next year, Bridges grew. The Walk in My Shoes session opened many eyes. Officers began treating people with more patience and empathy. Complaints went down. Conversations went up. Scott changed too. He wasn't just Officer Scott anymore. He was a part of the community. And Jaden became a quiet leader. His strength inspired others to speak up. At the one-year Bridges gathering, Scott gave a speech. He looked out at a crowd of officers, families, and youth and said, "I thought I was here to protect this community. But this community protected me from my own blindness. Jaden taught me that real change doesn't start with others. It starts with ourselves." As the event ended, Scott and Jaden stood together once again. "You've come a long way, Officer Scott," Jaden said with a grin. Scott smiled. "Couldn't have done it without you." They shook hands, not as a symbol of ending, but as a promise. To keep building, to keep listening, to keep walking forward.